We are back. Yes, it is been a while, right? But the four Bs are here.
How many
Kind of
weeks is
two
it?
Bs.
It must only be about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, but it feels like a lifetime in Bitworld land. This is the
Yeah.
Four Bs, the world's most bullish podcast, brought to you by Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. He unfortunately, you know him, Mr. All In, aka the $1 trillion man, is not here, but that's because he has a new Bitcoiner in the family and Mrs. No Show. Still Mrs. No Show.
I wonder if she tried to turn up last night.
Hey, maybe. Do you think because the last 2 weeks we haven't done it, Mrs. No Show was going to do the show?
Yes, of course.
Logged in, and yeah, no one was around. I think that was the case.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Yeah, we'll go with that for sure. Mrs. No Show, we love you, but you're still no show.
Probably drink a Starbucks latte.
Yeah. So we've still been going up into the, well, not even up. We've just been going tracking to the right, not going up a lot, a little rally back for the period of time that we've been off.
I haven't really looked, to be perfectly honest. So I'm just having a quick look now. And yeah, we've got a slight rise. If you look at it over 6 months, we got bottomed out about £16,000 pounds, and we're sitting somewhere about 20,000 at the moment. So it's smoothly going up.
Yeah, I think 20% increase.
I think we're going to see a lot of traction over the coming months. So I think we've been waiting for the recession to start, which apparently isn't a recession, but we'll cover that later. And we've had a bit of a bump, almost a bump in the market, where prices have started to go back for a bit back. But then we have also had an announcement that CPI is over 10% in the UK.
Yeah, what was the actual figure?
I want to say 10.31, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. So this has been the first time in a long time that we've actually said double figures as well.
Yeah, because I saw it in the news today. I'm just trying to find if we got it, but yeah, they've announced it. And apparently, so I'm trying to remember what the different classifications are. They used to use a different one in the 80s, and they moved off it when it was too bad. And now we want to move on to another one to lower what inflation looks like, so it's hidden even more. I think the rule which we've always used is inflation is roughly 2 to 3 times the official figure. So of around about 10%, we know it's 20 to 30%.
Yeah.
And we have seen that. We've seen things like fuel go up, though obviously it seems to be going back down again. We've got gas up and electricity. We've got food, it's all up massively. I think we all predicted this back in 2020, because you can't close down an economy and print your way out. It is just not logical, because you created too many pounds for the market. I did actually speak to a financial advisor who said, oh no, that's all right, because people got their money, but that was the money which they're going to spend anyway. So it meant that not any more money entered the market. But I'm like, but all that money which wasn't spent in the first place in order to generate these jobs, it was still sitting with the businesses. Therefore, it became cheap money, and therefore it entered the market and diluted the market share of how much fiat there was. So,
what's his response?
Oh, it was at that moment where I kind of just went, I mulled it over. I didn't say anything. I just didn't sit right. I thought about it for a day and just went, no. His response was Keynesian. It was a government response. I just went, he either doesn't want to explain it, or he doesn't understand it. And either way, that's not, it's not someone who you want to invest in.
No.
And it was also, there's all this is happening because of ABC. There won't be a second year of inflation. And I was just like, we printed our way out of the second year of lockdowns as well. So just wait for that to kick in.
Exactly. And ultimately, it gave everybody an excuse. I say everybody, the government, an excuse to hide behind this as well. Because at the time, they were giving out money freely, and that money, or a lot of that money, they will not ever recover. Money to people that were self-employed, money to businesses, and of
We
course, money for vaccines
Yeah,
as
but you
well.
you say this, they'll never recover the money. All it's meant is the money supply has been diluted or debased, whatever you want to call it. And it's meant that now the average earnings have gone up. Therefore, people fit into new tax bands and they tax you more. And therefore their central government debt looks less.
Mm, it's a
That's
really
the
good
trick.
point.
That's the trick of fiat money and inflation is that they do this. Because if you go back to the statistics in, was it the First or Second World War, and very few of the population in the UK were actually taxed because they didn't fit into the higher tax bands. But over
Mm,
time, because of inflation, they all came into those tax bands. And that's exactly what happened. Because you think in 20, 30 years' time, 100 grand will be an average wage.
yeah,
Whereas in
yeah,
the
absolutely.
80s, that was like the 80s or even early 90s, that was like the golden, like,
The elite.
yeah, that was like, if you make this, you can get a nice car, an amazing house, and you can retire early. Whereas now it's just like you're doing well, but you ain't having such a high flying life as you would have in the early 90s.
No.
And I've actually been thinking about this today. Have you seen all the things about the or what's it called? The Inflation Act in America.
Oh no.
So it's one which they've put, but they always seem to talk about 400,000. And it kind of made me think, is 400,000 the new 100,000?
It's interesting you say this because I came across a statistic of like the average the average wage in the globe, and then what it took for you to be in the 1%. So I'll share it in the chat, and then maybe we'll put it in the chat notes as well, in the show notes afterwards. And it's astonishing, actually. I think it was around $400,000 in the US. I think it was
Oh, this
249,000.
was this was by the state, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Well,
saw
no,
that. And
yeah.
I had a look going, oh, I wonder if there's any really poor states where my salary might feature. Not a chance.
Yeah. I think this was via the Globe, but yeah, let's have a quick look to see if we can
Yeah,
find
I
it
think it
quickly.
really has shifted it, and we haven't really noticed. Because we talk about the value of money halving within what is it, 15 to 20 years. So if you think
That's right.
go back 40 years and say it was 100 grand, within 20 years it became 200 grand. Within another 20 years it became 400 grand. So maybe it's actually happened, and everyone just is so transfixed on 100,000 as being
Mm.
I made it, and it's actually 400 grand, which is you've made it. And it's slipped over time because of this 3 to 5% inflation every year.
Yeah. It's a great website if you've not seen it already, by the way. How
Just haven't
much?
shared it.
Yeah.
You need to share it.
Yeah. Yeah. How much.net. I'm going to find, let me send you this. Okay. Right, you have that, and then I'll find the specific one as well in terms of the
So how much
specific
.net?
article. Yeah,
Ooh, visualizations.
you'll love it.
So debt, I see it's got debt in there for you. It's got all sorts for the US. So yeah, I think it's one to have a research through. It
Yeah,
may leave
we can.
everyone hanging a bit if we talk through that long, but
Yeah, definitely that. All
let's
right.
just click on investments and just see if there's anything No, it's just electric and God knows what. Ignore that. So Mr. Allin shared an article about how finally an article in the mainstream media explores Bitcoin and why crypto is a scam. And he sent us a paywall website. So I was like, cheers, Mr. Allin.
Yeah, I've been on the New York Times too many times to have also used up my free credits. So yeah, I can't view it either.
So yeah, we will skip past that. Maybe bring it into next week when I'm not here. So the next one brings us on to arbitrage mining. So this is what's really interesting is I think this comes into the cost of living at the moment. So this is if you were to mine Bitcoin, which country would it make sense for you to do it in? So have you had a look through this and tried to figure out where?
Yeah. I downloaded the infographic again. This will be in the show notes because when it was on Twitter again, which is in the link, it came up pretty small. But just for anybody that isn't aware of what arbitrage is, it's where essentially you can buy or sell. Typically, it's like a currency. So you can buy a currency in one location and then sell it for more in another location. And it's quite interesting that Sam Bankman-Fried, who is the CEO of the exchange FTX, he was doing this with cryptocurrency initially. So he was buying it on one exchange and then selling it on another exchange, and obviously from a time zone perspective as well. So he kind of worked out an algorithm of where and how to do it within order to get the margin on this. And obviously it made him a very, very rich billionaire under 30 years old.
Do you know what? After you saying on another website, I went, I have my face pressed up against the screen trying to see the countries on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've downloaded it and I've got it. And yeah, it's much easier to read.
I can see it a lot more clearly, but I think what it shows is some of the countries where you haven't really appreciated where the money's been debased, where you should have cheaper labor. So if you look at things like the Caribbean, it's 60 grand, 89, 73. So I'm kind of thinking they aren't rich. Not everyone's rich in that country. So energy workers, they're not going to be getting paid top dollar. No. So it says that there's a problem with the currency. Whereas if you go to the Middle East, where they just ignored lockdowns, what's happened there? Oh, it's like 10 grand.
Yeah.
And they do pay some workers quite hefty fees out there. So it kind of makes a bit of a mockery. Yeah. But then you go to where else locked down? India. What's India? 40 grand. So it actually follows all the problems with the cost of living, or rather the cost of lockdowns.
Yeah, I wonder if, and it should be able to do this. So,
oh, look at that screen share.
Yeah.
First time on the pod.
We're getting better, people. So hopefully, if you are watching this on YouTube instead of just on your favorite streaming podcast service, so you won't be able to see this.
Spotify gives us a video now.
Oh, fantastic. So here you'll be able to see the entire world map, and obviously it's blown up nice and simple for you to see. What was interesting is Trinidad and Tobago is at $13,000, but as you said, all the rest are in the high 60s and above, pretty much.
I think if you looked into two things, is if they publish their inflation statistics, the M2, whatever you want to call it, within country. So we know the UK hides it and has done for years. The US has started hiding it after what they did. And then also whether the country locked down. I think if you literally mapped it down to those two aspects, you would see a striking pattern. So you got India, who I mentioned, they're not rich. Yeah. There's a lot of people getting paid not very well there, but the cost is through the roof. So it says that something's happened. Then you kind of go to Africa. Well, could they afford to lock down? No. Sudan, 4,000. But then you go to inflation problem countries, Venezuela, Somalia, Somalia got the problem with the government, and it's,
Yeah.
and then there are ones which I just wouldn't know. Like you got Seychelles, Maldives. I don't know if it's because of it's a little island, so they struggle to attract workers.
So are we saying therefore that Bitcoin mining companies should be moving their efforts to Sudan?
I think so.
If not already, they should be there, right? Now, I guess obviously it all depends on infrastructure as well, but I can't see, and feel free to let me know, anywhere cheaper than Sudan. Oh, Algeria.
Is Algeria
Algeria.
cheaper?
Yeah, 4,182.
But it's amazing that within a continent, so we can look at in the north, you've got Morocco, 24 grand. You've got Nambia at 30 grand in the south, but then you've got Sudan in the kind of middle, and you're kind of going, I suppose it is probably a very, very poor country in Sudan.
Yeah.
And we've got the Central African Republic as well, which we know have got a problem with their currency. So they've brought in a kind of joint attempt with Bitcoin. But yeah, it does seem to have this kind of like big correlation between lockdowns and inflation and the price, which is surprise, surprise. So if you think that UBI is a good idea, which is fundamentally what they did within lockdowns with things like, or what do they call it in the UK? Where they basically paid the salaries.
Hello.
There's a specific name which Rishi and Boris used for it, which was basically paid to sit at home up to 30 grand. So the kind of UBI, which was launched in the UK, you can see how it's affected the energy prices. So England 49, Scotland 50, Wales 52. It's very expensive to actually have. And then if we look at the socialist, the lovely socialist country Venezuela, 246.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, we've got a winner. How silly of us. Kuwait, 1,394, top right.
Oh, behave. It's like it never happened in the Middle East.
Yeah, that is our winner. So Kuwait at $1,394 to mine a single Bitcoin is your cheapest location. From what I can see in scouring the map, it's like a where's Wally? And the Solomon Highlands, I would say pretty much at 3 o'clock, $142,582. And that's your most expensive.
That's an interesting one. I wonder why it's so sky high there. Like I said, I think you'd have to really dig into this on those kind of two aspects to find out why it's through the roof.
Oh, again, stop the press. I've done it again, haven't I? They've already shown it, so I'm just not looking properly. It's Venezuela. 246,000.
I said that before.
Yeah.
It's it shows that right. Socialism pays.
Yeah.
But yeah, great map. I think it's I know we're enjoying it a bit, but maybe it's one which we should move on to. The two which didn't really seem to be right are Lebanon and Turkey. So we know that they're both going through hyperinflation. But if we look at Turkey, it's 17,000 according to the map, and Lebanon is 25, which I kind of go, that can't be right. That can't be right, because we know that Turkey, the official statistics, I think it's 60 or 70% inflation. But in reality, it's over 100%.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's probably one for us to keep an eye on and revisit, depending on obviously definitely how often it is updated. But it's a fantastic visualization in terms of arbitrage and mining.
Well, I do wonder, like, Q8 is at war torn. Is that actually the issue? But anyway, enough on that. We'll move on to our favorite.
What would also be interesting, though, is that eventually countries will get into mining. So not companies, countries. And
I'd be surprised if there aren't some. Like, I'd be surprised if China aren't secretly doing it, because they could tag it onto their systems energy, and then basically have it as a cost-free exercise, because they're just milking a little bit of electricity from all their population.
Yeah.
And to swell the government coffers. Moving on to our next story, good lead, is Argentina apparently is only 21,000 to mine. But we know that Argentina in the last 100 years, I think they've been through 5 currencies. We know that their average inflation over the last 50 years is over 100%. And what's happening in Argentina at the moment, another episode of hyperinflation. So what have the government who are very helpful done?
What have they done?
They have put in regulations to stop people fleeing from the peso to crypto, because it's in the people's interest, isn't it? They don't want people to get wrecked on Bitcoin.
No, of course not. And instead, they can just get wrecked on the peso.
Yeah. So we go Argentina currencies. I mean, it's on the way. They're defaulting on the debt, but I think the IMF are kind of like helping them out, because I think they know what the alternative may be. There we go. Argentinian peso. So we've got peso before 1826, the peso fuerte, 1826 to 1881, the peso moneda corriente, 1826 to 1881, gold and silver pesos, 1881 to 1970, peso moneda nacional, 1881 to 1970. So it seems to have different currencies floating around. Peso ley, 1970 to 1983. And we've got peso argentino, 83 to 85. The austral, 85 to 91. Peso convertible, 92 to present. So there's a lot of currencies floating around as a peso. I don't really know all of them all, but that's just looking at the kind of headlines on Wikipedia. So do you really want to trust your government to look after the state of your money, your salary, your earnings, your savings, when you've been through about 5 different currencies in the last 40 years?
Not at all. You know, we saw it just before our 2-week hiatus, didn't we, where the euro is now matching the dollar. And essentially the euro and the dollar were like at parity, par for par. But that meant that 1/5 of the euro just got wiped out pretty much overnight.
I've been thinking about this one, because if you look at it on pure percentage or inflationary terms, you know, if you listen to what Putin said, it's over 40% over 2 years for the US. It was 20-something% for Europe. So in reality, the euro should be like 2 to 1.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at it on a really logical amount of currency floating around, but it actually just shows that people lost trust in the euro, haven't they? And they're kind of like, we're not dealing with that shitcoin because it's really got no backing, whereas at least the US dollar's tight. Well, it is the petrodollar. It is the reserve currency. It is, whilst it's not the best, at least it's got something, whereas the euro is, it is just shib, isn't it? It's literally nothing.
Exactly that.
So the rule is those who have bought crypto in 90 days will not be able to access a single free exchange market. But I think there is a workaround. Is
it a VPN workaround? Or
we could do that, or you can do peer-to-peer buying, but I'm talking about through their actual system. So what you could do is use your trusty pesos to buy dollars and use the dollars to buy Bitcoin.
Correct.
And we know that Strike are trying to launch over there as well, so that may be another way out. But they kind of got to hide it somehow. So how do you hide it from your government? You're putting all your savings into Bitcoin.
Yeah, the beauty of Bitcoin, as we know, though, is it's unconfiscatable. So if you achieve this, you are a lot more secure than leaving it in the bank or in cash.
Exactly.
Definitely not in cash.
I
Essentially,
think
if you left it in cash in Argentina, it's like putting it on a bonfire and setting it alight whilst,
yeah,
you know,
hoping to rip out the odd note which isn't on fire
yeah,
and can actually be redeemed. But these are the people who you see so many people trust these people in government in charge for their welfare ultimately. Whereas these people are just putting you into this kind of system which is locking you in. There's
yeah.
no interest of helping the people here. It literally is fuck you, fuck your money, stay using our peso, even though it is the ultimate shit coin. It is a dink doink.
Mm. It makes me think as well, whilst we're doing it, wonder what the emigration rate in Argentina is currently at right now, because people must be thinking, I've got to get out of here if they can get out
I
of
think the
here.
people who are actually rich enough. So I think last year we saw a 10,000 peso. So if you had, what was it, over 100,000 pesos, you had to give the government 10,000, something along those lines. It's a bit pretty much a tenth of your wealth. So they did that last year, and there's not going to be too many rich people since they got a fucked up currency. So the people who are rich will have been trading foreign currencies for years. So these people have their money in foreign bank accounts because they know what was coming. So if they want to remain in Argentina, they just be like, well, I've got 5 million in the Cayman Islands or wherever it is. Doesn't matter, does it?
No.
Whereas the people who are really being hit by it, not being able to feed their family, probably unable to afford to get a bus, they're fucked. And people put trust in their governments, and this is why we're saying, why would you put trust in your government, and why CBDCs are so dangerous, because it allows governments to do this and lock you in completely. It isn't just we don't want you to do this, but you can. It'll be like, you can't do it anymore because we said so.
And you're locked in, because ultimately the only thing that you would be able to do is spend their coupons. And if you can't spend their coupons, then you've got no way to be able to buy food, buy clothes, buy water, and obviously shelter even.
They are basic government food coupons. I listened to a pod this week and it was on there as well. So just a bit of deja vu then. But yeah, I feel so sorry for the people of Argentina. They just get put through shit after shit by their corrupt government. And this is our latest one. We're not going to let you escape. We're not going to let you get the life raft. But apparently, if you are from Argentina, apparently if you do convert it to dollars, then you can buy Bitcoin, or maybe look for peer-to-peer buying.
Well, it's ultimately what happens here is going to be extrapolated across the world. So as their middle class depletes because of taxes, you will just have your elites, and then you'll have the poor, and there'll be nothing in between.
Like I said before, say if they said, oh yeah, the poor don't get taxed much, but anyone who earns over 400 grand, you're going to get taxed at 70%. Guess what, people of Argentina? You're going to be earning over 400 grand in no time. And it's going to be worth fuck all, and you're going to get taxed 70% of it.
Yeah.
And this is the whole problem with socialist agendas.
Absolutely. Right. So where are we going to go with for the next article?
Oh, it's my favorite subject, inflation. So I think this occurred a few weeks ago where the US, I don't even know how to intro this actually. It is beyond anything which I thought was possible, say 3 years ago.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So let's play it out, right? So I'll be Ducey and you be John Pierre. Okay,
I want to be Biden.
Okay, you be Biden.
Come on, man. Ooh, prostitute.
Okay, so I'll be Ducey and I'll ask the question. So if things are going so great, why are White House officials redefining recession?
We haven't. I'm trying to remember what the actual
Yeah,
conversation, because it was like
yeah.
he asks a definition of a recession, says we're in a recession. No, we're not.
Well, the definition is 2 consecutive quarters of
That's not the
negative
definition. That's
GDP.
not the definition.
How is that not redefining what a recession is?
A recession will be happening when there's things like people not getting jobs, and everyone's got a job.
So the unemployment rate, according to me and my opinion, is low because half of them are probably sat at home getting a paycheck from the government, meaning that the figures are actually skewed because they're not working.
Interestingly, I'm listening to a book called The Basics of Economics. Great Austrian economics book, by the way. Absolutely loving it. It's an absolute monster of about 24 hours. I'm about 12 hours through. And he talks about this, but government definitions of people unemployed is only when you're looking for work.
Correct.
So literally, if you think about it, you could have people in prison, the people who just don't want to work, so they live with their parents. So this could be, they've given up because they can't find a job 2 years ago, because we've seen a big problem of unemployment for 20 somethings. Then you've got burglars, drug dealers, and then just people who are just like, fuck it, I'm gonna have a bit of a break because I'm having a bit of I'm getting nothing every time which I search of 2 months. So all those people are going, they're employed, they're not searching for a job. Whereas the actual proper figure should be how many people are not working, how many people are actually classed as officially retired, so over 65. Or even you could go, but then when you start trying to stretch things, so you go, oh yeah, there's a couple, the wife doesn't work or the husband doesn't work, so the wife or husband earns so much. When you start bringing that in, when you go, well, but their son doesn't work and he's 28. But then it's actually because you can't find a job. And that's unemployment. So I think anyone under 65 or whatever your cutoff for retirement age is, that's when you should say that's your true unemployment rate, and you'd find out it's a lot higher.
Well, do you think that they will go into a third quarter and again just deny it?
We've seen so many definitions changed over the last 2-3 years that they'll deny it. We've seen like a vaccine, like the COVID vaccine. It's not a vaccine, it's a jab. It puts a bit of virus. It doesn't stop you getting infected, therefore it's not a vaccine. You've seen history being rewritten, and it just worries me. This is the most blatant attempt at rewriting history. So in the comments on this Twitter link, which we'll share, there's a clip of Clinton and Bush where they're being asked whether we will have a recession in 2001. And Clinton says a recession, no, because a recession is where we have negative growth in 2 quarters, and we won't have that. So that is Clinton who says it 20 years ago with Bush. So these are 2 of the most qualified people, well, you hope, in the US. And they said
but they are more qualified than Sleepy Biden.
Dementia Joe. I'm sorry.
Granddaddy Biden.
I just don't know how it's going on, but the whole US, I just think this is
the whole
Rome.
world. Forget just the US.
I think it's Rome. I think I've said it so many times on this pod, but it is Rome. It is burning. People don't want to work. They're loving the free handouts. People are too obsessed about things like sexuality, whereas they're not looking at what's closer: the heat, the electricity, the energy, the food, and generally just even more simple, being with their family, and that's what's important.
And also people are they're obsessed with their pronouns as well, right?
Well, yeah, it's the similarities to Rome when it broke. So I'm trying to remember which book it was in. I think I just get lost in what I've read, but they talk about Rome and the breakdown. So they expanded so much, but when you actually dig into, well, what does that mean? You can get tax from all these different countries, but they're reliant upon getting another country, say, every year. And why are they doing that? Because people around Rome, they're going, you can have food for free. So they had really a form of UBI, back in
Yeah.
ancient Rome. And it was like, you can eat for free. So the farmers would put down their tools in their fields and live and roam on the streets and live in luxury because it was easy. And that's fundamentally what we've had. You know, these handouts, they are pretty much the same. And it is basic economics that you need to have some form of production, otherwise you are going to pay for it. Otherwise, other people go, that person's not working, why should I work? Why should I give a shit? Therefore, the production lines break down and you get the cost of living crisis, and also the fact that you've inflated the monetary supply.
And I do believe that the numbers of Americans now fleeing the country are up as well, because they see it.
I would love to know that stat. So USA immigration. No, emigration, isn't it?
Yeah. But what's it saying?
So, it's only 2021, so we haven't got the 2022 stats. So
okay,
it's saying 2015 to 2020. That's really not a good comparison because it's the last 2 years which have had the issues. It's 3.15 migrants per thousand, and it's down. Oh no, sorry, it's 2.93 per thousand in 2020, down from 3.15. Whereas I'd love to see that 2022. Like if we can find that stat, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's just mad. Like it's recorded in so many places, even Wikipedia, where they change the definition. If you go and look at the edits, it's got the original definition. So it literally is, it's 1984. Like if you read the book, it talks about the changing of information. And when you have a Ministry of Information, and we saw US try and launch that a few months ago, didn't we? Yep. That crazy woman who was singing the song. And then she got absolutely hounded by everyone on Twitter. And I think they compared it to Hogwarts in 1984. But it's Rome. It's got to burn down soon. But it worries me that we move from the US to China next, it'll be a lot worse.
I do, and let's pick up on that actually in terms of China. So yeah, I do think that China is an interesting one in the fact that they've got this kind of housing bubble going on. So in China, you have to. Like you put down and you pay for a mortgage for a property, even if the property hasn't been built. And I think we may have covered it also.
It's because the demand's so great, isn't it?
Yeah,
people having to buy ahead of time.
Yeah, that's right. And but the building itself, because of supply chain and demand, isn't actually being built. So you're paying for something for so long, and you're not actually seeing any progress towards it.
So basically what you're saying is the Chinese market is an NFT.
You're right. Exactly that. You can't touch it. You can't see it. You don't own it. So it's not only that, but also we talked, and it's interesting, it's not really been spoken about, but where I'm not too sure what the numbers were, but ultimately there was 4 billion, I guess, yuan lost, where people thought that they were getting that 4% in their bank accounts for current accounts.
Oh, this is the bank run stuff.
Correct, in terms of the bank run stuff. So yeah. So
yeah, that's just in one province.
Exactly. But that means a bunch of people have lost lots of money, ultimately. And so that's going to hurt them. We're also starting to see things slow down in terms of the demand side of things, because the cost of living is rising. So the money that they would have been getting from all of the West's consumerism is decreasing naturally. So people are starting to tighten their belt. We're also seeing food.
If you look at their salaries over time in China, it
Yeah,
is going up. And this is because they start down here when everyone outsourced to China. And then what happens is they've got this factory who's doing the outsourcing for America versus the Chinese factories. They're paying 10% more because they want the best people in order to keep this contract. Therefore, the local factories got to keep up, and you basically got this kind of like steps. You're going up and up and up. And that's another factor of why the wages are going, why China's not being as strong, and why, you know, ultimately when they're in this kind of like boom in the 80s, they needed to spend more on their infrastructure and get everything up and running while it was cheap. So if they haven't done it now, they're fucked. And it's the same with the US. The US can't do any infrastructure because they pay everyone too much.
Yeah.
But they also did it based upon everyone's gold when they were storing France's gold before they spent it.
We're just protecting it for you. It's okay. It's all right.
Can we have it back?
No, don't be silly. There's a couple of other factors as well, isn't there, in terms of, so you've got the food shortages that are coming in, and then we've also, and I keep on saying this, but I just feel like, and I'm not wishing it on them, but I just feel as though there could be some form of natural disaster that happens in China, which puts them back, which will then be a repeat of what we've seen previously before, where France were due to overtake, was it Rome? And then
So sorry, you're going back to if you go back to the natural order, it was Netherlands, which I find absolutely insane that they're the biggest country.
That's right. Yeah.
They basically overstretched themselves, and France were primed to do it, but France were invading every country which they could with Napoleon, and he overstretched France. It meant the UK stepped in. So I suppose your point is, have China overstretched themselves? So they push their people too hard, and is it too late for them to really take on America now? Who steps in?
Yeah,
is it going to be El Salvador?
Be interesting if it was El Salvador out of the blue.
But then you kind of think these superpowers. So you've got US is waning, China's having some issues.
Yeah.
Do we end up with a really dystopian block where China just goes, US, you do what you do over that side. You can have Europe and Americas. We're going to have Asia. And they just basically lock everyone in, and they just do it that way because they know there's a chance that another superpower could emerge, say like Brazil or India.
Well, I do think that if that was to happen as well, effectively there will become some tensions between Russia and China. There will always be one that wants to be number one. And I just think it'll go down to like just the human instinct of them not being able to get along because they're so different from one another.
It's a fair point, but then I always find myself wandering over to like the sovereign individual. The people don't give a shit about this. They don't give a shit about government. Leave us alone. Fuck your governments, we want minimal, and we don't want wars. It's literally, I'm going to pay you while I'm in your country a minimal tax for you to actually do the roads, actually have education, and actually have healthcare, instead of all these silly fucking wars which we don't want. And I think that's what I just hope happens, but it does worry me that someone like China's going to get in, Russia, or just this craziness around CBDCs where we have our life locked down, where you're fundamentally getting food stamps.
Well, if you think about it, you've got Xi Jinping versus Putin. I don't believe either one of them haven't got the ambition inside of them just to leave each other alone. They want supreme rule.
Yeah, and it'll be multiple countries, won't it?
Yes, correct.
I think they just need something to happen to America, and they know it. But you mentioned food shortages at the moment, but don't worry about food shortages because we need to worry about our carbon footprint. So we're going to close down some farms so there's nothing to eat. Yeah, so I think that's inflation. Rant, well, I would say rant over, but I'm sure we'll rant more.
Well, we'll always
The,
rant.
the next one was, I think, is a website which you shared, which was quite a good one. So FUD of the week,
Yes.
end the FUD, and it has a load of articles which Sean has very generously itemized and put together in a load of links, which I think is worth anyone reading. My problem is I've read most of these anyway. So like I was having a flick through the titles earlier, I went, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one.
What I've thought is it's really good because everybody's job is to orange pill somebody else, and this podcast goes across the world to people that both listen and watch, and they will have friends, family members, general public that think of them as crazy and that they're walking around with a tin hat. And sometimes they might not have the ability to
My wife thinks
articulate.
I'm crazy.
Oh, same. you know, but essentially they will have the ammunition to look through the articles because they're categorized as they are to be like, oh, actually, I've got an argument to that debate and I can back it up with fact. And therefore, End the FUD is a fantastic website and a resource for people to be able to do so. And I think it's our duty to bring to you an article each week, which will then reaffirm, even if you know it, and many of them you may not, the reasons why when people say, yeah, but what about this? Well, we'll tell you what about that and how we combat that.
I think that's a fair point. An article a week. I mean, especially whilst we're in a bear market, going through an article. So I think we're going to have some special.
Bitcoin's weeks. Dead, isn't it?
Yeah, Bitcoin's dead. We're just doing this. It's to an empty room. The principles of hard money just don't matter. Oh God, what's happened is food and energy gone up as a result of printing money. Has this happened before? How do we stop it happening in the future? So in this website, you've got Bitcoin wastes energy, load of articles. Bitcoin might exhaust all energy available to people. Uses more energy than Visa per transaction. Uses dirty, non-renewable energy. Bitcoin versus gold mining. I don't know if they got it on here, but if you look at every gold mining company, they claim they produce 2% extra gold per year as a whole. But then you look at the gold companies and their assets or rather their reserves, and strangely, they're increasing by more than 2% per year of gold. So I just look at gold and think it really is dead. I think it had its time. Bitcoin is a Ponzi pyramid scheme. Bitcoin
That's
is
a
for criminals.
fantastic one, that in terms of Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, because it's an easy one for people to actually say that Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme. And I'm glad that naturally End the FUD has captured Lynn Alden's addressing the Ponzi scheme characterization. I mean, when people talk about Ponzi schemes, and this is where I start to get on the rant, I'm like, you don't even probably know the true story and the meaning behind what a Ponzi scheme, one, is, two, who Charles Ponzi was, and then three, how it would even relate to Bitcoin. It's just something that people have heard and therefore they go back to it. But, the first thing to kind of shoot it down is a Ponzi scheme is where there are people at the top and obviously people at the bottom, and it was always built as a Ponzi scheme. But we know that the Bitcoin white paper was released and anybody could have taken advantage of it.
Oh yeah, we could have mined it back at the start, did we? No.
Yeah.
You find Bitcoin when you are ready, as Mr. Allin says.
Exactly, when you deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. And here it says Bitcoin. Oh, my favorite, no intrinsic value.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Just touch upon this because it pisses me off whenever someone says it. What is the value of fiat? What is the value of gold? You like wearing it as jewelry, but when you dig into it, what is its use? You're out in the jungle, the desert. What the fuck's gold going to do for you? It ain't food. When you actually dig down to the value of anything, you can question it. And it's just a means of trading. And that is what Bitcoin fundamentally is. It's a fair system, 21 million coins, no more. It's gone. It's not going to increase. It's a medium of exchange which stops people distorting the supply. But there's a lot of articles on here. I think I probably will send it to a few people. There's someone who I'm on a long orange pill to. He's going to take a while. I think we're about 6 months in. He's a socialist, really good guy, but thinks that somehow a government will fix it. He's on a long orange pill, though. I don't think he realizes. And I've already converted one as well. And then we got proof of work versus proof of stake.
It's a great one.
I think people just don't understand proof of stake, though. I don't think people understand proof of work and why it matters. And I think you've got to first of all go, what do you want from a currency or a medium of exchange? And you ask them what it is.
The proof of work is one that you really have to think about and read and reread again, and then actually understand it. Because I'll be honest, it wasn't until about a couple of months ago that I really got proof of works when I read the book on Bitcoin. It's there somewhere.
It was the same one as me, which I think I understood proof of work earlier, but it was how Bitcoin did it, which I didn't understand.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm trying to think how to explain this very quickly.
It's hard. I mean, it's even things like the size of the blocks.
Proof of work is fundamentally where anyone can verify the transaction which you're putting through all the rules, whereas proof of stake is the person with the largest pot. So you kind of go, if you end up in that society, so think about this, you've got a free democracy, which is what proof of work is. Everyone has their say. Whereas a proof of stake is dictatorship. Pretty much the person with the biggest balls, biggest army, biggest pot of cash says what you do, and you do it. And that's the problem with proof of stake. Someone ends up with the biggest pot of cash, they control it. And that is why we do not want proof of stake, because if we move Bitcoin to proof of stake, it might work quite well for 50 years or so. But then if someone manages to accumulate more Bitcoin, maybe through being a good person, but then suddenly turns evil and then starts printing more coins or manipulating the supply or whatever it is, moving coins to their wallet because they can, because they've got the stake. And that's why we don't want it.
Do you know what is interesting, right? Today I was in I went and visited my local solicitor because I needed to get a solicitor's stamp as I'm recovering the deposit from a property. And effectively I needed to confirm, yes, I'm the landlord of the property and that I'm not doing this underhand, and that I do solemnly swear that the information that I've given is indeed the truth and nothing but the truth. That's all well and good. And whilst I was waiting for her to come back with the stamp, I was thinking, is there anything in this world that is either not being corrupted or where people have tried to cheat the system? And in that split second of whilst I was waiting, I was thinking, I don't think there is. So in every sport, somebody has tried to cheat in that sport.
When you think football, you've got the hand of God, you've got steroids, you've got
steroids. I mean, straight away, as soon as someone breaks it, it's gone.
Yeah, you got bribing referees.
So sport is gone.
Yeah, you apply it to every single sport. So you think cycling are massive doping problems, which they've had.
Insider trading in terms of the stock market.
Finance.
Okay, great. So that
Then you got
topic's gone.
politics.
Yeah.
Um,
So politics is out.
we could go lockdowns and just go for Boris Johnson having parties at number 10. There's
Yeah.
one really basic example, which is nowhere near the worst for politics.
So
Teachers having sex with their pupils,
exactly.
robbing banks, inside bank jobs, government 10% haircuts in Cyprus, Argentina.
I mean, you can think about food and pesticides and foods and genetic modification of foods.
Or you could go for in America, they told because there was an increasing obesity problem in the 70s or 80s, they told everyone that it was down to fats and not sugar, and it was actually the sugars which are selling the people. And we've kind of seen it very similar. We've seen it recently, very similar, where it's been demonizing red meat, whereas it's the fact that everyone's eating so many processed carbohydrates.
I mean, you've got food. Clothing. So
exploiting and third world countries, slave labor.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I read. Well, I didn't read. I was listening to the Basic of Economics, and it made actual case for factories abroad, which was those local people could be doing whatever job, and typically these factories actually pay more than their local jobs. So whilst you call it exploitation of the third world, that person's actually getting paid more than their neighbours by working in that factory. So you ask them whether they get exploited, and the answer is no. So that's actual really interesting take on it. But that was based upon, I think, data from the early 2000s. So I don't know if things have changed in the last 20 years. I'm trying to think. Clothing. Well, yeah, you can go for exploitation.
Yeah, you can get fake goods, can't you?
Yeah.
So counterfeit goods. So
quality, poor quality.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'll challenge the audience to come back with something that has not been exploited, cheated, or manufactured in some way, shape, or form.
I say animal farming, but then you go to BSE, which is caused by them feeding cows dead remains of cows.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. And we do it with other animals. I think if you go green energy, it's basically only propped up by government subsidies.
Yeah.
So it's not even that good. And it shows that it's, well, not in any state to actually go global because it can't survive on its own. I can't think of another category. But yeah, really good point. Yeah. And that is a fundamental proof of work. You can't trust anyone.
And a long-winded answer, but we got there essentially.
Do they call it a trustless cash? Is that what they call it? There is a specific name.
Yeah.
But yeah, brilliant website. I think I need to read a bit, and I think if we covered one article or two a week, then I think I'd really dig into it, because the FUD and the answers, you got Lynn Alden. I think I've seen a few names. I think did I see Pomp?
So the writers are Nick Carter, Thomas Strolight, Alan Farrington, Nick Battier, Lynn Alden, Parker Lewis,
VJ Boyapati.
Boyapati. Yeah, Vijay Boyapati, the author of Bullish Case for Bitcoin. It's a really good article as well.
It's probably going to be other people. I don't recognize their names, but I'm sure I've read things by them.
Yeah.
Dan Held. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, we'll good idea about the future, along with some specials.
Cool. Okay, so hack of the week. We'll speed things up a little bit.
I read this. Do you know what my first thought was? Is Solana still a thing?
Yeah.
I generally thought it just disappeared into the ether, but apparently it's still going.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
I thought it had a number of hacks or something. I'm just having a look at the price to see. £33. Oh, shitting hell. I thought it'd be in penny, because it went up to 185 after being £1 something. So it had a really big year. So it is fairly new. And now it's at £30. And I just kind of go, how is it still going? So my understanding is so there's been a bunch of hacks.
Still going by people just believing that they can put more money after more money, more money after bad money.
Like a sunk fallacy.
Correct. And then it'll come back. It'll be fine. But without actually knowing the fundamentals behind it, sorry.
From my understanding, it's basically kind of like a DeFi lending kind of tool. But I don't really understand. It's a load of, what do we call it? Word soup.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of going, it's just a pile of shit. You kind of go, it kind of goes back to our previous conversation. What do you want a currency for? Yeah. It's a medium of exchange. What is a good medium of exchange? Scarcity, limited, security, and all those kind of things. And it's just word soup of crap. And you're just going, it may be a technology. It's not got any value in that way. It have a license, but you can use our technology, not just creating bloody coins out of nothing. So my understanding from this is there's been another hack. And what is it, $7 million of Solana has been stolen. But it kind of goes, well, why are people still holding their crypto on these online wallets? They've been shown to not be secure. Why are you doing it, you fucking idiots?
Take your money out the exchange. The exchange is for just that. Exchange your fiat for your Bitcoin, or say crypto, for your Bitcoin, and then take it off. Learn self-sovereignty. Learn self-custody.
So it's a widespread attack as private keys to several wallets have been compromised. So it's just basically, they've got online wallets, they've been compromised. If you had a ledger or a Trezor or whatever the other ones are and stored it on there with a metal backup, this wouldn't happen. So yeah, it's something which I'd encourage everyone. So I remember speaking to someone in work, and we got onto listened to the pod. I don't know if he still does. And every time I speak to him, I ask him whether he's still got F or XRP, and then mock him for having it. So if you are listening, just sell it. Don't shitcoin Bitcoin. But I was talking to him about the whole point of security, and you've got your ledger, which is it's one half of your keys. So you got your 8-digit code with a ledger. I don't know what the Trezor is. I'm guessing 8 again.
Yeah.
And it's basically the two to come together, and therefore you can access your Bitcoin or shitcoin. Now, if that breaks, what do you do? That's where the 24 words come in. And the 24 words is so you can retrieve it. So that is a full key together. But the issue is that the ledger comes with a piece of paper. You write it down. Your house goes on fire. You lose the ledger. You lose a piece of paper. Or if it rains really badly, your house gets flooded. The ledger breaks. Your piece of paper gets washed away, or it becomes so soggy it's unreadable. And this is where the metal seed backup comes in. So I can't remember the names, the brands, but there's Tiny Seed. I've purchased one recently. So I'm actually done it yet, so I'll show you the size of it. Pretty stoked with this. So not much bigger than the top of my thumb. That's a Tiny Seed. Fits on 24 words. Titanium, so it's heat resistance, I think, to up to is it 3,000 or 4,000 degrees?
Yes.
You got the Zeus, which you use. So same kind of concept. You bang it into the piece of metal.
Credit card size.
Yeah, credit card size, so not big at all. Quite easy to hide. And you got things like the prison safe, which I had, which is a tube which you stack the letters. The issue with that is it's kind of got a hook in the top. So the hook comes out, you're fucked because it'll spill everywhere. And then there's ones where it's like a credit card, but you slide the letters in. And same kind of principle as the prison safe. You put something in to block it, but once again, if it gets bashed really hard or somehow the hooks come out, the letters are going to go everywhere. And that's why I'd say get something where you have to stamp the letters in, because then you can protect it. But I'm kind of going on a bit of a tangent. But yeah, I kind of look at this story and just go, why is this still happening? Why are people still holding it on wallets? You know what's happened previously. Stop being a fucktard. Well, these are people who buy Solana, so they are fucktards.
Exactly. There's no hope for them.
Have you heard the bit about Jack Dorsey and Block and their entrance into Bitcoin storage?
Yeah. So I think it was just over a year ago now that Jack Dorsey said that they're looking at building a hardware wallet. Well, it was after it was during, the Bitcoin 2021 event where he announced that they would be doing something. But ever since then, we didn't really hear anything more. And something new come about?
Yeah, because it was a triple lock, if I remember correctly. So it's got one which sits on the server side, and you've got to use 2 of the different security levels in order to access your Bitcoin. So it sounded all right, but there we go. Block Bitcoin team reveals their plans and seeks feedback. So, so it's self-costy, blah, blah, blah. We need to create forgiving recovery experience that prioritize easier paths to get customers back on their feet when something goes wrong, which I agree with, because it is hard to keep custody.
100%.
There we go. So the 3 parts: a mobile app, a specialized hardware device, and Block's backend server. So each would control one of 3 keys, and all transactions will need approval from at least 2 of them. So if you lose the mobile app, lose your mobile, you're left with a specialized hardware device and Block's backend server. If Block disappears, you've got the app and the hardware device. And if you lose your hardware device, you've got the app and the backend server. So if you lose one, you kind of go, shit, I need to sort out the third then. It allows you to recover it and get yourself back in the game.
Yeah.
So it seems like a good plan. I don't know how it works, but it looks like one which may help bring in more people.
Love it.
You want to move on to the lost Bitcoins, the tale as old as time?
Yeah. You got a feel for this guy, right? So back in the day when you were able to mine Bitcoin on your GPU in terms of your laptop, it's fantastic. I wasn't there, I wasn't around, but you didn't need an ASIC drive to be able to do so. But this guy had 8,000 Bitcoins on his hard drive.
He's one of the earliest miners, wasn't he? Was he in the first 5, did they say?
I think so. He's super, super early. And the whole thing around, security and, back then, Bitcoin was maybe, fractions of a penny as well. So it meant nothing to him at this moment in time. And so security wouldn't have really been an issue because there was no, at that point, intrinsic value made around Bitcoin. And
also, if your hard drive's sitting in your desk, not actually online, there's no risk.
Yeah. But he threw it out, didn't he? And when he threw it out, he thought nothing more of it until the price increased.
Again.
And
again.
And again.
But it did die a few times.
But Bitcoin is dead, so it doesn't matter. But I think on the video it said somewhere that the value of the hard drive was around about 256 million.
What's it? If it's 8,000 and we're roughly about 20 grand, it's about 160 million at the moment. So that's probably a bit of a fluctuation. But if you think peak period, it's worth over double that. It's 400 million plus.
Yeah. So that's one expensive refuse site, isn't it?
But he's getting things like the council involved. He seems to be getting backing from the video. I didn't really get what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah. I think he's found some new device that will be able to track the hard drive easier.
He's probably going to find some right dodgy hard drives with all sorts on, like Mr. Orland's hard drive.
Oh gosh, Who knows what's on that hard drive?
Exactly. So he said that, what is it? He wants to give £50 per person in Newport. He wants to set up business loans for school leavers for business to give them more opportunity in the local area. So it's kind of good, and that's probably him holding back 10 million or so.
Yeah.
You know, so he's going to have his fun, big pimping. But one
Did he
thing
say he wanted a Ferrari as well?
He talked about his love of cars.
Yeah.
If you had 160 million, would you get a Ferrari?
It might be one of the many in the fleet.
Just don't know if I'd be that bothered.
Yeah.
I just seem to have completely lost that desire in my life.
Yeah, ask me when I get there, because you're absolutely right. Right now, I don't have that desire whatsoever. But then I'm sure living half a decade as a multi-millionaire, you'll need something to increase the endorphins because you've experienced everything else.
One thing which I couldn't make out from this, and maybe we've read before, does he have Bitcoin?
Yeah, I want to know this. Yeah,
he had a Bitcoin clock, but it meant no mention whether he had any Bitcoin. And I kind of went, it was so early on that he lost it. I'm like, did he stack any more when it was like hundreds of pounds?
I don't know. And did he even get it? Because again, it's hard to remember.
Well, he mined it, but I suppose that could have just been interested in the new tech, couldn't it?
Yeah. Because we're looking at this, you know, if we go back to my new favorite website, alongside, of course, the World Debt Clock, for regular listeners, that's still my favorite. Ultimately, this whole end the foot and all of the various different articles, this has taken years and years of all of the best articles to be combined into a single place. But this information wasn't out there before, back in 2012 and before that.
You had the white paper.
2013. That was it.
So you kind of think, what orange pilled me was kind of like the situation which led to me coming across Safedine. I think in either what Mr. Orlin was retweeting or liking, it appeared on my Twitter feed. And it was just by chance that I was checking out Twitter because I've never really been into it until the last 2 years. And I came across him, read the book, but that was first published in 2017. So you kind of think without that, I wouldn't have had such a clear and concise explanation of why it mattered.
Yeah.
So it would have taken someone, I think, who has had a lot of awareness and intelligence to actually get it back then. And hold for the next 10 years or so.
And again, it wasn't as far from as mainstream right now. Of course, you can say the word cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and people at least know what you're talking about, whilst they may not necessarily have any or hold any. Some statistics.
They still think it's a magical internet money.
Well, exactly. Statistics that I saw is that around about 300 million people own some form of cryptocurrency. There's around about 180 million Bitcoin holders. And so that is a fraction of the entire world population. And, you know, ultimately, we are trying to get to 1 billion people holding Bitcoin. And then from that point onwards, we're really in the game.
What's the population of Argentina now?
Good question. I don't know. What's Google saying? I'll give a random guess of 90.
I know, 45 million. That's 45 million more people.
Yeah.
So that's going to go soon.
Yeah.
Anyway, do we want to finish it with the last one, Shitcoin Corner?
Yeah, Shitcoin Corner. Let's do it.
So this is a Twitter thread, and it's one which Mr. Orlin put in. So guy loses 150k fake bidding on NFT. So he lost 100F. So he was selling his domain. Well, must be must be NFT. I don't really know the terminology because I pay no attention to it. And he said he put a joke bid of 100F to buy it back. So it looks like he got a little bit, but put this in, and he forgot to cancel it. So
correct.
I'm kind of like going, why is it a joke bid? Was he not just trying to fix the price by putting it in?
Yeah, so it's called shell bidding, where you obviously you're the other bidder on the other side to bump the bids up.
So he's basically just a moron who tried to cheat the system, who got what he deserved.
Unfortunately so. And yeah, he's got a picture of a bored ape to keep him comfort, right?
Well, it's actually one because it's a hexagon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, he's a fucking moron. Oh, here we go. Franklin has 60 apes. 60 apes, yeah. So what's 60 times by 0? That's how much they're worth. So yeah, he's got it listed as his kind of flat flex. I mean, he's got the pictures of them. But yeah, he's a moron who lost 100 F. Then again, what's 100 times by 0?
I was going to say it's still going to be 0.
I was going to say he's a moron for basically trying to fake bid, but then it's for an NFT, and then you're going to go. He bought it with F as well, so it's just everything. I'm kind of going. So looking at this guy on Twitter. He has a bored ape. He's got the hexagon. I mean, he says that he owns 60 more. So you're kind of going, he's a moron for fake bidding and basically losing 100 F. But then you go, he's bought bored apes with F. And I'm just going, he's a shit coiner. He thinks that NFTs have worth. So he's got 60 times by 0 and 100, and he's lost 100 times by 0. So I'm just like, he deserved it. He deserved to get wrecked.
Yeah. So he's the 6th largest bored ape collector as well.
How much are they worth now? Because haven't they gone massively down in value?
I wouldn't know because I don't really obviously follow them. But let's try and quickly.
So he bought one of them for 79F. I mean, then he's selling one for 83F, which is probably to pay back what he lost. And he's bought another one for 0.65. So they do vary quite a bit. And I'm guessing the 0.65 is recent. But I don't really know. Oh, there we go. 4 or 5 months ago. No, sale was a year ago on that one. Whereas the 79 one, it's probably from himself to himself. That was 5 months ago. He bought it for 79. So I imagine that's his own account which he bought it from. So it's just about money laundering, unless you really are a fucking moron and believe that these have worth.
Yeah, it's not really my thing.
What do you mean it's not your thing? It's just shit coining and trying to say you own a JPEG.
Yeah. I looked into it a little bit further as well because I have a customer that is very much into NFTs. And
would you tell them they're a moron?
They're going to sign off on a large order, so I'll refrain from using any profanity because their fiat and their order will buy me more Bitcoin. Yeah,
the dream.
Yeah, that's the one. So so I was just thinking, I believe that the way that he was thinking is that there's people like Disney that are dropping NFTs and it's just going to be huge. I don't agree with it, but it will allow for people to come into the market and then eventually find Bitcoin when, of course, it dies, because Bitcoin will still be there. and Bitcoin will still be like, yeah, I'm over here. You should be picking
I
me.
worry just like with shitcoining, but it'll be associated with that failure. So you kind of think the people who got wrecked on say Dogecoin or Dink Donk or Shib or whatever the hell else they bought, they won't want to come back into the crypto community. So like, oh, I got burnt so badly. But it's just like, you bought shit. You know, you didn't educate yourself. You speculated and gambled, and you lost.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Something which we didn't say at the start was the title of this pod. I think it's Misinformation Part 4.
Yeah, I think so.
So anything which you've heard today, take no notice of, but it's probably right. But I'm sure Mr. Orlin would try and correct me when we're both back.
Yeah, very true. And I also want to just loop back as well to ledgers, because we're a big fan of ledgers, and but we must say RIP to the original ledger, which was the Ledger Nano S. So the Ledger Nano S is now gone, and it has been replaced now with the Ledger Nano X and the Nano S Plus. So RIP Ledger in the sky.
I am looking forward to see what Jack Dorsey does produce in this area, because it has got to be simplified. I just can't even begin to think how. And I think it's going to be a few failures when he does bring out his first.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful he'll get it right. Oh, God. So on the Ledger website, Chainlink, Bitcoin. What is Chainlink and why is it first? Compound, Cosmos, DAI version 2. Well, there's a version 2. It's obviously shit. Litecoin, Dash, Dogecoin, Elrond, and Ethereum.
Where's this? Sorry, on the Ledger Nano website.
Yeah, this is manage your NFTs safely. So yeah, they've brought across some £69 for the Ledger Nano S Plus, which I think's fairly similar to what it was before. And the Nano X, it looks like the same thing.
It looks, they look exactly similar, but it's transparent. So you can get some transparent versions.
You just want you want something which you can hide easily, which looks like a normal USB. So it's got Decred, whatever that is. Ethereum Classic Komodo.
Yeah, but you know, the kids want colors, man.
This just disgusts me. I want a Bitcoin only one. Oh, Nano X has Bluetooth. That's a big difference, and it costs you double the price for the.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, that is the case? Because you can get the same color in an orange on pretty much on both of them, but yeah, for Bluetooth, and I don't know why in the hell you would want Bluetooth, by the way. I mean, again, I suppose let me know about that.
I suppose if you hide it, it wouldn't have any power source, would it? So you wouldn't be able to pick up the Bluetooth. But I think just having anything over Bluetooth is a security risk. So
correct.
I wouldn't use that myself, and I wouldn't advise anyone. I think old-fashioned cable, just don't be stupid. Don't store it in an exchange. Don't store it in a Nano X, and don't have it on online wallet.
Bluetooth. Are we saying that the Bluetooth is linked to your laptop or your desktop, and therefore allows for you to wirelessly transact between the two?
I think so. But you'd have to have a power. You'd have to have a power source, so there's a cable in it anyway.
Well, I guess it may have a battery in it of some sort.
If it's a battery, that's even more dangerous because it could be on when you're hiding it.
Correct.
Oh.
All these, all these things.
Yeah, I'm on my website having a quick browse, and it's got the Crypto Steel Capsule Solo, which is what I've got the prison safe. Like I said, I look at that now that I've been reviewing what I'm doing. I just can't advise people to buy that. I just think it's waiting for an accident for someone. And Bill Foddle, which is very similar, but just a credit card design. I would recommend the Crypto Tag Zeus or the Tiny Seed to do. I just can't.
Go on. Sorry.
I just can't see round just stamping something. So I think if you're attaching letters which could fall out through a pin being removed, you're asking for trouble.
You're right. It's good podcasters. I do think that we'll probably have to buy these products and really test them, and then be able to come back to you with conviction as to the legitimacy of them. You've bought Tiny Seed. I've got Zeus. We've both got Ledger Nanos. And we know, obviously, they're fantastic. But let's also explore a little bit further. I've never been tempted by Trezor, maybe just because I feel like I'm loyal to Ledger. But hey, who knows?
And they may be Bitcoin only, though.
Yeah. Another thing that I should be talking to the audience about is I booked the ticket to be at Bitcoin 2022 Amsterdam, so I will be there. So hit me up, any listeners as well, if you're going to be there. Comments underneath. I'm still going to try and work on getting you there as well.
Yeah, if you can get me. I'm not going to get it as a holiday, so if work wants to take me, that's fine.
Well, if it's not this year, then next year. And I don't know if you saw the article that was published on LinkedIn as well.
No.
Go and read. The impressions are out there. It's making some good headway already.
What's this about you being Bitcoin Amsterdam?
No, this is about the MiCA regulations that are coming in, but also off the back of that, we'll be doing a webinar at the end of September, and then in November we'll also be having Jamie Bartlett in an intimate event where he talks about the missing crypto queen.
That's a bit of a good point to end on.
Yeah, there we go. Well, this has been Pod 63, brought to you by him, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, me, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. He was here in spirit, probably knee-deep in shit, changing Pampers, which is the $1 trillion man himself, Mr. All-In. And then finally, last but not least, Mrs. No Show. Still not here. Peace out.